Most students with autism are educated inside a regular education classroom, and so they should be. But for many kids, that conversation is not taking place at the IEP meetings, meaning that inclusive education, is not the number one priority for some of the IEP teams. So, what we're trying to bring you guys today is information about 10 ways to support students with autism inside a regular education classroom. I'm Stacy Hoagland, and welcome to Reach. So I'm super excited today to be talking about something that I'm certainly very passionate about, and so many parents and advocates out there are as well, and that is inclusive education. There is no better place to find positive role models, especially when it comes to behavior, social skills, language and communication, than next to your typically developing peers. We all learn more when we're surrounded by people who know a little bit more than we do, right? So when we go to conferences, when we go to classes, when we as just adult humans want to learn something new, we tend to want to go hear from somebody who has more information and to be surrounded by people who know more than we do. That's how we all grow and change. But a lot of times what ends up happening is kids come out of a preschool program and the IEP teams get together and they say, well, we're going to start with this autism program. And then it's as if the child has to be ready or they have to change who they are in order to earn inclusive education. And that is not what educational law tells us. Educational law, IDEA, so the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, tells us that we're supposed to start with the least restrictive environment, which would be a regular classroom. And then, if that doesn't work, after all the supports and strategies and the things I'm going to go over with you guys today, those things didn't work, then we start talking about other settings. So just keep that in mind as you have these really important conversations with your schools. All right. So what are those 10 ways? First thing we're going to talk about is learn about the learner from the learner, right? So this is primarily focused on teachers, but we want the parents that are out there listening to share these things, these little tips with your schools. And so learn about the learner means, where are we getting our information? How do we learn? If we're a teacher and we're getting a new student, how are we learning about them? Well, we're reading the IEP, right? So if they're new and they're just coming in, we're going to read their IEP. That's why your IEPs are so important. It needs to have all that good, valuable information. Do not forget about the parent input section. If you're passionate, like I am, about inclusive education and the benefits there, then you want to make sure in the parent input section, you're going to put that you are interested in having your child included in regular education. All right. So it could be there. It could be from the psychological evaluation. It could and should be from the parents. So, you guys who are parents, you need to be providing your feedback. There's something called the day in the life that I always recommend parents to make. So, a day in the life is going to be a one pager, hopefully, and you're just going to give the teacher a little bit of information about who your kid is. It could be about their loves and their passions. It could be about where's best to sit in the classroom or what's a good time of day for them to take a sensory break. Stuff is really valuable to a teacher, and they love when they get the information because guess what? It makes their jobs a little bit easier. So the next thing is teaching to their fascinations. When we talk about reading comprehension, so many kids with autism really struggle in that area. Some of them are pretty good readers, but they just don't comprehend what they're reading. And so we're looking at a couple different deficits there. So yes, of course, the whole putting everything together, right? So because when you comprehend, it's not just, yeah, at the beginning, it's the what, right? It's the what questions and the who questions, but it quickly moves into overall understanding of what you're reading, what the text is trying to convey, which is really hard. It requires a lot of critical thinking, executive functioning skills, with a lot of kids, with which a lot of kids with autism and adults with autism really struggle with. But so many people, including me and probably you, we have a fascination. We have something that we're really super interested in. So why would we not teach them reading skills from their passions, what they're interested in? So if your kid likes Minecraft, get some books on Minecraft. If your kid's into Thomas the Tank Engine, get some Thomas books and help them be able to understand and really develop a love and a passion for reading, because the material that you're asking them to read is something that they're really interested in, right? All right, include. Okay, so that means inclusion. That doesn't mean visiting a regular classroom for 30 minutes a day where you feel like you're a visitor or a stranger. That actually means being and feeling included, developing relationships. And to do that, it takes time and it takes support from those around him or her because of the social challenges that so many people with autism have just as part of who they are. They need a little bit more support. They need that support as they come into a new environment, especially, and start making friends and learning, where do I put my lunch? What do I do next? And that's again why they need those positive role models around them. Take a break. I don't know about you, but I need breaks throughout the day. We want to make sure that breaks and break time is part of the classroom flow. Some kids can go for an hour, 2 hours, even of just hitting it, right? They're just the whole reading block. Oh, it's 90 minutes, it's 2 hours. And our kids, a lot of times, they just need a break. So build those in, especially if you structure it and it's part of the schedule. So they have their visual schedule, they have the breaks built right in so they know it's coming. So as they might be struggling with something right now, they can look at their schedule and they can know, oh, okay, a break is coming. So if I could just get this part done, then I'm gonna get to my break. Create a comfortable classroom. So that means having that break area. That means having a sensory area. That means having sensory gadgets and fidgets at their disposal. Maybe it's having like the rubber band on the bottom of the chair so they can push that and get some input. Maybe it's having a wiggle seat so they can kind of swim around as they sit in their seat. So making sure that it's comfortable for them, that the lighting isn't too bright, that there's not a lot of noise maybe coming from the outside of the room. A lot of people say to me about, oh, well, it's noisier in a classroom that has 18 kids than has 8 kids. And those 8 kids might have those, all 8 may have autism. But a lot of kids with autism, just part of who they are, they make a lot of noise. So it might be the same pitch of a sound throughout the day. There might be kids in that classroom that have some pretty significant behaviors. And so there might be yelling, there might be crying, there might be all types of things that are happening around the child that are disruptive, not only to them, but to the classroom. And most of the time, when you're in a regular classroom, yes, it gets loud because there's 18 plus kids in the room. But that's usually during times of transition. When the kids are sitting in there working, it's generally pretty quiet in a regular classroom. If you've not been in a regular classroom, I encourage you to contact your school and set up a tour so that you can go check it out. Get them talking. And I don't mean like verbally, because maybe they can verbally do that. Maybe they can't. Maybe they use a technology, some type of technology to do that. Maybe they use picture exchange. Maybe they're using spelling to communicate. Whatever the case may be, assist the student in making sure that they have a voice in the classroom, that they're part of the discussion, not that child that sits at the back of the room and is quiet and everybody's just happy that he's being quiet. That's not inclusion. That's not beneficial to the child. So we want to make sure that the supports are embedded within that program to help them get them talking, get them communicating with others. Choices, right? We all want choices. So making sure that the choices are in place, and it might even be during the academic block. So it might be, well, do you want to start with this math activity or do you want to start with this math activity? Or do you want to start maybe even with this reading activity or this writing activity? So making sure to give them the choices, because a lot of times when we get choices, we feel like we're empowered. For a lot of these kids, especially the ones who have some oppositional type of behavior, a lot of times what they're opposing is the feeling that they have control over nothing. We as adults are telling them what to do all of the time. So they never get the opportunity to feel empowered. So we want to give them choices, even if we're the ones, because we're the adults, they're the kids. So even though we're the ones that are in ultimate control of the two choices, we're still giving them a choice. Consider handwriting alternatives. Because if you've got a kid that this is really hard, the whole handwriting thing is really hard. It's how they're holding it, right? Like, is it fisted or is it quad? Is it tripod? Like, how are they holding it? And is it painful? Do their hand fatigue just because it's too much? Or the process of getting from here out to here is just a lot. I mean, we live in an age of technology. There's plenty of apps that you can get that you could literally take a phone or an iPad and you could take a picture of a worksheet and they could do that worksheet right there on the technology. We can do that. We can put them on a computer, which a lot of kids are doing, of course, post COVID. So that's kind of a natural part of everybody's class. And then hands on activities, like during a math lesson, giving them blocks and beads and different things that they can use as manipulatives during those activities. Support transitions, right? So if you've got a kid who struggles with getting from point A to point B, making sure that there's an adult there, that the adult supports them, that there's a visual schedule. For some kids, it's something called task analysis, where it can be even broken down even more. But making sure that those types of strategies are in place. Help with organizing. A lot of times we'll take a look inside a kid, elementary age kid's desk, and it is chaos in there. It's just, there's just stuff all over the place. It's kind of a mess. Or a backpack. There's nothing organized in that backpack. Okay, well, that's your indicator that your child might struggle with organizational skills. So, of course, we want to make sure the adult is there in place, maybe doing a check in and a check out, beginning and end of the day, giving them different color file folders to make sure that they know, okay, the red folder is going to be my history folder, and the blue folder, that's going to be my reading folder, and so forth. And maybe even when they open the folder up, this is my homework, this is my classwork, so that everything can visually stay as organized as possible. And those type of things give so much support. I don't know about you guys, but I have to have my list. I have to know what's coming. I need to know what are the things I need to accomplish today and tomorrow. And that's how I operate best. And that also helps reduce my stress. And it will do the same thing for your kids. Find time to meet with your child's teacher to discuss the ways for them to support your student inside the classroom. Collaboration with teachers is key to having positive outcomes. If you are not involved in your child's education, chances are good that they will not get the education that you expect them to, for sure, especially today when we hear across our nation about short staffed and not enough money for curriculum and not enough teachers, not enough speech pathologists. I see many children that are getting a really good education, but right behind that kid is a parent who's in contact with the teachers, who are letting the teachers know what your expectations are for your child, what you think your kid can achieve, and how to help them get to that level. So make sure that you are a valuable and valid resource to your teacher, because the best outcome kids are the ones where the teachers and the parents are working together. We hope that you like this episode of Reach and that you will join us again. So if you would subscribe, if you're watching me on YouTube, if you just hit the subscribe button and follow along, you'll be able to get these different tips that we're going to try to put out on a weekly basis, and other information as well. We're going to be sharing all kinds of stuff. If you are listening on a podcast, thank you very much for listening in. And if you want to see this presentation, you can always go to our YouTube channel. It's the Autism Society of Florida. You can also, if you're watching me, you can also click on the QR code, and that will take you directly to our website for more information about all the resources that we have to offer. So we thank you for listening and for watching, and we'll see you again next week.